I am so excited to introduce Nutrilite. This company has been around for 80 plus years. They were green before green was even a thing. They have the world's #1 kids and adult vitamins and kids and adult probiotics. This company uses the power of plants from seed to product to nourish and support you and your family's immune systems so you can have fun and enjoy living life together. Personal testimony. I had allergies for years and couldn't even be in the room with dust or cats. And the only thing I've changed since then were my vitamins and supplements. They truly cleaned out my system, and now I have 3 cats. Don't spend another penny on low quality vitamins that invest more in advertisement than the product. Arm yourself with Nutrilite vitamins and probiotics, and they have so many more things that will keep you and your family happy and healthy. Also, you can earn points towards cash with every purchase, and with purchases over $99, there's free shipping. Stop losing sleep and time with your family and get back to life with Nutrilite. The link is in the show notes.
Welcome back to the Homeschool Advantage podcast. I'm your host, Bex Buzzy, and today's guest is Isabel de la Cruz. Isabel started her tutoring journey in 2008 as an upward-bound tutor, teaching science and math to teenagers from 10th grade to 12th grade. She then began tutoring full-time in 2014 and has had the privilege to tutor students from 8 years old to 40 years and above in math, biology, chemistry, physics, computer programming, and Spanish. Isabel is from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and a graduate of the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign in 2012 with a degree in Molecular and Cellular Biology. Isabel also attended the University of Puerto Rico at Humacao, where she studied computational mathematics for 3 years. She has a strong background in computer programming and math, but Isabel's first love was acting. She can be seen in many films and TV shows, which is why she's an online tutor. She loves the sciences, but wants the freedom to be there for her students no matter where she is. In this episode, we talk about how financial literacy should be a norm, not a privilege, that it's never too late to talk about finances with your kids, and how you don't need to share all your personal details or figures, but that any time the opportunity presents itself for a moment of teaching financial literacy, you should take it. Even simple things like the difference between a debit card and a credit card, what credit is, what a check is, take the opportunity. So go grab your coffee, go grab your tea and a pen and paper, because you're not going to want to miss what Isabel has to say. Let's get into the podcast. Today we have Isabel de la Cruz from Isabel Explains. Isabel, say hello to our guests and tell me, what is the misconception you feel most have about homeschooling?
Well, hello, Bex, and thank you for having me, first of all, and hello, everyone. I think one of the biggest misconceptions I've ever heard about homeschool families or homeschooled kids is that they're like either socially awkward or like overprotected or even like strictly religious, right? And even though obviously there are some here and there, that is definitely not what is common, at least from what I've seen. A lot of these kids, they're incredibly bright. They are very well spoken. They don't have any fear of adults, which I think is amazing, that they can have a conversation with an adult as if they were adults too at like 8, 9 years old. And I think that is pretty fantastic.
I totally agree with you. I feel like they have great communication skills. Like they look you in the eyes, they shake your hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And
It's
they know how to
amazing.
shake your hand.
Yeah, and they're usually in a lot of different groups as well. Like I've seen them play sports
Yeah.
or ballet classes or whatever, they're always in something in a group with a lot of other kids and a lot of other adults as well. So I think
Yeah,
it's
they're
really
not
cool.
just solely with kids their own age. There's such a variety. They have kids older, younger, they're with adults. So I think they get a very well-rounded ability to socialize and socialize like you would in the real world, right? Like
Correct.
I don't hang out with just 48-year-olds. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like my friendships span from like 30 years old to maybe 55. You know what I'm saying? Like I have a ton of different friends.
Right.
It's my friendships span because of my likes and the things that I do and the things that I enjoy, right? Like similarities, not our age. Our age doesn't mean why I hang out with you. It's the
Correct.
things I like to do. So I think with homeschooling, I feel like it's more real life for sure, for sure.
Hmm.
But I want to talk about Isabel Explains. I want to talk about you. Tell all our listeners more about what is Isabel Explains.
So Isabel Explains is basically, I started it as a YouTube channel and where I started doing math and science videos because I do teach math, science, and Spanish. And I always wanted to make some sort of free content to where kids who cannot afford a tutor were able to have access to me basically, or me teaching them. So I started a YouTube channel right after the pandemic started, actually in 2020, and it started growing, right? So it was great. A lot of people are liking my content, like, thank you so much, this saved my grade. It's really amazing. But eventually I started talking to my students, and the more I got to teach them and tell them about my channel, they were like, you know what, I would love to see something about like real life stuff. And I'm like what? And they're like, I want to learn about taxes and like life and like money. Like I want to know how to make money and how to keep money. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do that because I had just had the experience actually of becoming a business owner and learning a lot from actually a community of real estate investors that I joined for a period of time. And I learned with them in like 2 years more than I had in 25 years of my life at that point. And I was like, this has to become a knowledge. This has to become a knowledge. So that's what I started doing with my videos. So I designed them to be financial literacy, and I did a few videos here and there, like how much are you really paying on a mortgage or things like that. But then I decided, you know what, I'm actually going to make a course. So an actual curriculum to where kids can start from the beginning of what is a bank account, you know, or how do I behave at a job interview? What should I say? What should I ask? All the way to retirement. And I actually released lesson one. It's already all of it on YouTube, and it's all about banking basics, the difference between a checking account and a savings account. What is a CD, how to save money on it, what's the difference between a CD and a savings account, difference between credit unions and banks, regular banks, things like that. So very basic stuff. And then lesson two, which I already started posting, we're posting one video a week. It is about income and employment. So the first few videos are about like what should you write on your resume? What if you don't have any experience, but you actually do? Hint, hint, spoiler alert. And things like that, how to behave in an interview, and then eventually like how to read your pay stub, what to expect when you start working, things like that nobody ever taught me. I had to learn it the hard way.
Thank you. Okay. I remember, I'll never forget when I went to where I was 12 years old. I lived in Brooklyn and I got recruited to like help old people and go shopping for them and like mop their floor and things like that. I got my working papers. So I remember I was getting paid, I don't know, like $5 an hour back then. Mind you, I'm 48. So you got to go back in time when $4 and something was minimum wage, right? So anywho, so I remember thinking, yes, I'm gonna be making like $30. I was so psyched. I was like, $30. I think I had work like 6 hours, something like that. So I was like, yes. So, I get my paycheck and I open it up waiting for my $30. And I'm like, yo, who the heck is FICA? I'll never
And why is
forget
she taking my money?
He's like, I went, Mom, who's FICA? What the heck is this? And she started cracking up. She's like, oh, welcome to the adult world. I'm like, what is that? She's like, these are your taxes. The government takes your money. And I'm like, this sucks. Like, I remember just stomping out of the kitchen, going into my bedroom. I was peed off. I'm like, I worked so hard for my money. How dare they take my money? I was just like, how do I get out of this? It was so funny. But I love the fact that you're explaining that, because it was a real shocker. I'm so sorry, but that was a real shocker to see that money was taken away from me. And it really hurt my heart, like a sinking feeling. I can remember it. I was 12 years old and I was just so elated that I was working and I was doing it on my own. And then just to see that happen, it just ripped something out of me. And I really feel like someone should have like prepared me, been like,
Right.
hey, Bex, all that money isn't yours. Just so that you know.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. And actually, I had similar experiences like that with even credit cards. I remember the first time I had a credit card fee and I was like, what did I do wrong? I didn't do anything. I've been paying on time or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
My cousin had to explain to me,
yes.
like, no, a credit card, if you carry balance, I'm like, what is carrying balance? What does that even mean?
Right. Yeah.
And my other wake up call on that was overdraft fees. I had no idea what an overdraft fee was either. So I explained that in my videos as well. Like, guys, opt out.
Yes. And this is really important to know. Like, these are actual decisions you have to make, how you're going to steward your finances, because your money you need to steward it. You need to be respected, like in a sense of, I just can't be spending my money any which way, shape, or form. I can't just be doing whatever I feel like with my cash.
Mm-hmm.
I need to tell my money where to go at the beginning of the month. My money needs to know where it's going to go. Otherwise, it's going to go.
Right.
It is going to find little wings and fly away. That's powerful, Isabel. That's super powerful, because right now, financial literacy, I think even for adults, is something that is highly needed, because, I mean, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I feel like they took it out of the schools so that way you're kind of dependent. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know, right? So knowledge is power. So take that knowledge away, you take someone's power away, and then you give them credit cards, and then they're in debt. You know what I mean? Yeah. And now what do they have to do? They have to work harder, more, and they're trapped, because no one is teaching them financial literacy and what it means to be a good steward of money. So kudos on you, because that's an important thing. Yeah. So thank you so much for even taking your time out to create videos and help people. So I'm going to say, like, parents, if you're not good with your money, you should be watching these videos too. Like, get some tips and tricks and how to be able to help yourself, and then can teach your kids that too. They're a great learning experience for the both of you. So what actually inspired you to get these videos up there? Besides your students telling you, like, because I mean, my students tell me a bunch of things too. I'm like, Miss Buzzy, can you do this? Miss Buzzy, can you do that? And I'm like, yeah, those things are great, guys, but yeah, probably not.
Yeah. I think it was just my own experience, to be honest. I love my students so much, and I told them I do not want you to go through what I went through. And I know that sounds like such a parent thing to say, even though I'm not a parent, but I feel like I'm like their third parent, But to be honest, it's more not necessarily because I don't want them to suffer, but because I don't want them to suffer unnecessarily, right? Like, a lot of the decisions I made were decisions I made unknowingly, when it was so preventable. There was no reason for me to have maxed out credit cards, to have items in collections, to have thousands and thousands of dollars on student loans on a university I didn't even need to go to. It's so much struggle that I've had with money my whole life. And it wasn't even that I was quote unquote dumb. Like, I was smart for most people's standards. I have a science degree, This is not about intelligence. This is about education, plain and simple, awareness. It is all about awareness, plain and simple. And I want to encourage parents, like, even if you feel like you do not have the tools to prepare your kid for this, or it feels like a taboo, like, I don't want my kid to know what's in my bank account or whatever. Watch these videos, watch them, because then you can at least know how to explain things to them and how to make it fun, because it can be fun, right? Like, it doesn't have to be this super tedious topic to talk about, or if you're embarrassed or whatever, trust me, you are not dumb. This is not about that. This is about simply things that we were not made aware of. And sometimes we have to be very intentional about what is it that we get to learn about. And the fact that they're on YouTube and they're for free and you can watch them at any time of day, there is no excuse. That's actually why I put them on YouTube. I originally had them on a teaching platform called Udemy, and they're great. You can have, as many lessons as you want, but only the first 2 hours of content are free. And I can't do that. I was telling my students, I was like, sign up now while it's free and why not? And then I just kept thinking, I'm like, I cannot do that. It defeats the purpose. It defeats the purpose. The whole idea is to make it available to everyone so that no one has an excuse to say, oh, I didn't have the money to pay for it. It's free. It's YouTube. Watch a couple commercials and that's it. You get it. So, that's the idea, is to make it available for everyone, regardless if you have a smartphone or if you can borrow somebody's smartphone, you will be able to watch them. So as long as you have internet.
Yeah, that's really good, because I know when I'm doing really well with my finances, I actually feel really confident in other things. For some reason, like, it transfers over into other things in my life where I just feel like free. I actually feel freer. I feel more in control of my life. And I feel very confident in my life when I have my finances under control. And I love what you said, that they don't have to struggle unnecessarily, because the truth is, we're going to struggle. We absolutely are going to struggle in life, because that's just part of life. And, today I was at a conference today and they talked about stress, right? Like, our decisions are either going to put us in distress or they're going to give us eustress. And I was like, yo, eustress, because you means good. So, like, good stress or bad stress. I'm like, the thing is, everyone is going to go through struggle. Everyone is going to go through stress. We're all going to go through that, but we shouldn't do it unnecessarily. We should educate ourselves. We should make ourselves aware of what is happening out there, because people sometimes will play on our ignorance. And when they play on our ignorance, we have no one to blame but ourselves. Exactly. Except ourselves. That's awesome. So what kind of student can benefit from your videos? I feel like almost everyone can benefit, but is there like an age limit? Is there like an age cap? Like, if you're like really young, you probably won't understand it, but right around this age, you can probably start getting it.
Yeah, we are talking to the homeschooling community, so that is very wide. I've had a homeschool student once that was 8 years old and she was in 8th grade. So,
You're
it
right.
could be as young as 8, I suppose, but generally speaking, it is for teens. So it is for teenagers. I do make a lot of movie references that a lot of, my teens are interested in.
Sure.
So maybe younger kids may or may not, find it as amusing or interesting, But it's funny because even some of my friends who are in their 30s, they're like, oh my gosh, I actually learned something with your videos. And I'm like, I guess it is for everyone, But yeah, I would say anywhere between 11, 12, 13 and above is my target audience. That's who I'm speaking to mostly.
Yeah. So after you made those videos for your students and everything, what did they tell you? Did they give you any feedback?
Well, yeah, they are loving them. I even have one of my friends, she has 2 teenagers, and she was telling me, she's like, we just binged all of it. It's like, we just watched the whole thing for lesson 1 where it was out. And she said her kids loved it. But I also, one other thing that I do is I actually host game nights, and I have one coming up on November 25th. I'm not sure when this is coming out, but November 25th, I'm going to have a game night, and I do them for free. Just know that it will be recorded for, promotional purposes and whatnot, but it is completely free. So basically I designed a game where it is, can you save $1,000 in 6 months? And it gives them, it's similar to the game of life, where they get to choose. I mean, I haven't played in a long time, but you get to choose like your job, the house you're going to live in, your car, what kind of subscriptions you want to have. And you get to even choose a weekly habit. Like, are you going to buy candy every week, or are you going to be coffee or whatever, so you get to choose that. And then every week you get a scenario where you get to make a choice, a financial choice. So whether it is, do you want to adopt a puppy, or do you want to buy a dress, or do you want to, like whatever the scenario may be, your friends want to go bowling, do you go with them? Or it is your birthday, what do you want to do? Or things like that, and they get to choose, and depending on their choice, they get to spend the money. Now, the reason why I designed it is to obviously give them a taste of what real life is like, and also get them exposed to how to use these tools. Like, they get to use a checking account, a savings account, and a credit card as well. So they get to borrow money from their credit card if they need to, or whatever the case may be. I teach them about taxes. So there is a whole section of they get paid, but their taxes get taken out and things like that. So is exposing them to what the real world is like. And speaking of feedback, one of the best scenarios I've ever seen so far was one of my students. She lost the game, basically. Oh. She was on negatives the entire time. She had to borrow from her credit card all the time. Oh, no. And then when we talked about it, she was like, I calculated my budget based on my pre-tax income. So she was making like $2,700 a month or something. And she thought she had $2,700 to spend. And I'm like, no, you don't.
FICA.
Miss FICA is coming and taking your money. So, but the second time she played, though, she was like, okay, so how can I make the game better? She asked me, so what can I do? And I explained to her, how to do a little better next time. And she went ahead and she budgeted everything. She took taxes into account, and she ended up saving more than $1,000 at the end of the 6 months. That's and great. She ended up debt free, right? Because that's part of the game. You cannot have $1,000 saved, but then $1,000 worth of debt, because then you don't really have anything saved up.
True.
Right?
True. Right. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. And we have a blast doing it. I even did it with kids from Ukraine. They are the sweetest, kindest, funniest, most smartest people. They're so cute. And they had a great time. And actually, one of the girls, when we were playing, there's one of the scenarios where you get to choose if you want to help your cousin who just got into a car accident. Oh, wow. Right? Or whatever. And yeah, so she chose not to help her cousin. And, we're kind of like poking fun at her, like, oh, you're such a bad person, and at the end, when I was getting feedback from them, she goes, I didn't have any money to help them. Oh. And that hit home so much, because I've been in that position where I really want to help a relative, or a friend or whatever, and I just didn't have the money. And it's like,
that's real life.
Things. Yeah, that is real life.
That's real life. That's real life. Yeah. And it's great when you learn those things in a game, I guess, right? That way you can prepare for it in the future. So where can they see your videos? Where can they go to connect with you?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, isabelexplains.com, or it's Isabel, Isabel. That's it. No LLA or none of that. It's not Isabella, just Isabel. And my videos are on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and you type in Isabel Explains, it will pop right up.
Perfect. That's awesome. As we're wrapping up, Isabel, it's been awesome having you on here and just learning about how it started, the things that you're doing, and some really awesome activities. Are you going to be doing this game every month or every 6 months? How are you going to be doing this game?
That is the plan. I would love to start doing it every month. I'm kind of in a transition period in my life right now where I moved from a state to another, like yesterday. Yeah. But yes, I'm
Okay.
going to try to do it as much as I can.
Got it.
And I'm going to try to make it at least once a month for sure.
Great. Awesome. So, as we're wrapping up, Isabel, is there one takeaway you would like parents to grab a hold of as we end our conversation today?
It is never too early to teach your kids about finance. It is
Amen.
never too early. And it doesn't have to be anything complicated. Something as simple as this is how a credit card works. You know, the difference between a credit card and a debit card. You don't have to give them any numbers about your bank account or anything like that. You can just play a game, however you want to do it, but keep them involved. Just make them a part of it, because the only advice I ever got from my parents was watch out with credit cards. You know, be careful with credit cards. I had no idea what that meant. You know, don't be ambiguous with them. Be real, be detailed, be open to answer questions. And it is going to be uncomfortable, because I'm sure it's going to be very uncomfortable, especially if you feel like you don't have the tools. But now you do, because you can watch my videos.
There you go. There you go.
But yeah, just it is never too early to teach them. And it is not about money.
Right.
It is about responsibility.
Beautiful.
You know, it is about what can be done with money. It is not about money itself.
I love it.
And yeah, I think that's a huge misconception that I also tackle in my videos. I talk about the difference between value, cost, and price.
Perfect.
And that is something that we can always teach our kids.
I love it. Isabel, thank you so much for coming on today and just sharing all of your wisdom. It's been awesome.
No, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
If you love the conversations we're having here on the Homeschool Advantage podcast, follow or subscribe our podcast to stay in the loop and never miss this amazing content. And please highly consider taking a minute to leave a positive rating and review to help others like you discover this show. See you next time.